Good afternoon and welcome back to the workbench. I have here another one of these power supplies. Well, not the same as the other one, it's a slightly different model. As you can probably tell, it looks a bit different. This one is the, oops, for the squeakiness. This one is the Smith Q-1760, and that lighting doesn't look very good. Let's try that. Is that better or worse? Slightly better, I don't know. Yeah, the Q-1760, it's obviously different specs there, 0 to 30 volt, 5 amp, so the other one is 3 to 15 volts at 20 amps or so, 30 amps peak. So it's a different configuration, different design. This one's got a current adjust knob here, and yeah, so it has different voltage range, different current, and it also has a current limiting feature that the other one doesn't have. So it's based on the same similar kind of chassis, obviously. Well, it's the same chassis physically. And this one just has different configuration, and it has one less heatsink, and it has a smaller transformer. This one I got second hand from a university surplus sale. Which is probably why it looks in much better condition and isn't covered in rust like the other one was. The only problem was that when they shipped it, they didn't package it very well, and when I arrived, the frame was all bent down in this area here. The transformer was bent over. I've got a photo of that to show that. Obviously I've already straightened things out a bit. But yeah, the transformer is quite heavy. Not as heavy as the other one. It's probably about half the weight. The core looks about kind of half the size. But yeah, that obviously kind of, it was obviously dropped at some point, and the frame here bent downward, and this was bent over, and these heatsink mounting brackets were pushed over, and the heatsink was pushed up against the PCB, so I couldn't turn it on or anything to test it at the time. I had to disassemble it. Just turn that off because I think it makes it look worse. I had to disassemble it and take everything out, and then straighten things up and put it back together. Obviously you don't have to worry about rust on this one, so that's nice. But yeah, so now that I've done that, I was actually able to power it up, and now this thing was sold as is, like there's no indication of whether it worked or not. Before I powered it up, I did the same kind of checks. I checked was the bridge rectifier shorted, make sure the primary side of the transformer is not bad. Doing basic measurements, everything seemed sensible, and I powered it up, and it does power up. And we can see that here. I just got to plug it in. So yeah, I can switch it on. It says current limit here because the current limit control is turned all the way down, but if I turn that up slightly, the light goes out, of course. Now there's no voltage here. Yeah, if I just touch, and you see where the problem is, I just barely touch the voltage control here, and the needle jumps about wildly, and that clicking noise was a relay in there because the transformer has 2 taps on it on the output, so it can switch between voltages. It switches at about 15 volts. This is from 0 to 30, and it does that for efficiency. Obviously on the lower voltage ranges it can have a lower voltage secondary on the transformer, and therefore the transistors don't need to dissipate as much heat, and then on the higher ones it switches over to a different tap, and that's quite common in some power supplies to do that. But as you can see on the low end range of this control, it's very touchy, and there's something wrong with it. It's not working properly. Could be a break in the track somewhere, or damage there, but yeah, it's not good. So you don't want to try to adjust something down to a very low voltage, and then suddenly it swings up to like 10 volts or something, while you're trying to output like 1 volt. So that's terrible. So obviously I need to fix that issue. Aside from that, everything looks fine. I haven't actually tested it with a load. I probably should do that, but yeah, it seems to be working. It's just this control is not very good, and I suppose I should check the current limit pot and see if that's accurate as well. But yeah, this one also has the problem of the fan being mounted kind of backwards, so that it's blowing air in instead of sucking air out. So I'll probably swap that around as well. At least this fan is pretty new. This is definitely a newer one than the other one, and that's a good point. I don't know what the date code is on this. I haven't actually had a look at what the things say. I'll just switch it off for now, but it is very interesting because this voltage control potentiometer is damaged and worn out or something. And yeah, it's very interesting because if we look at the control board from the other power supply, the one that is like 30 years old, and the pots even have like rust on the body and stuff, but this one actually works perfectly fine. I saw no issues like that with this one, so it's quite fascinating. And this one uses Elna brand capacitors as well, all throughout the power supply, whereas this one, the main filter cap is Capexon, and I don't know what the brand of the ones on the board are, but they're not Elna. I can tell by looking at there's one I can see from the back here. So I'll take this out anyway. I've got to confirm what value this potentiometer is so I can buy a new one. The schematic, which I have found on the internet, says that it's 50k, but I'm not entirely sure. So I just want to check that. But yeah, they've definitely cheapened out on this one over the old one. Like I said, the capacitors are cheaper branded. The fan is even held on by cheaper kind of rivets that not pop rivets. There's some kind of thing that bends over. So, they've definitely made this one a cheaper version. But yeah, it doesn't have a badge that says Dick Smith here. That's missing. But yeah, so I guess what I actually will do is hook up my load tester to it and just see what we can do. Get an idea if that current control is working as well, or if that's a problem. Alright, let's see what happens. I'll just switch this on. I've got no voltage here, obviously, because I've got this thing all set down. So let's take the current limit off there. Now let's see, what do we get? 0 volts, 0 current. Let's adjust this a little bit. Okay, now we've got like 2 volts there. If that's correct or not, I'm not sure. We adjust the current there. Obviously nothing's going to happen. See, that suddenly went down to like 0.7. Of course, I think this control is a bit funny. Let's set it to something typical, like 5 volts, for example. Okay, so let's turn the current up on here a little bit. Let's say 1 amp maybe. Okay, well obviously we can't go above that. Oh, you can't see that. Whoopsie. Oh dear, the camera's not in a very good position, but I can't wind this up past 500 milliamps, obviously, because that's obviously what this is set to. It's about what that's set to anyway. Yeah, because that would be, let's see, that would be 1 amp there. It's about 1 amp on the display, and if we go here, yeah, this won't really go up above. It's fluctuating like 1.1, 1.2, so yeah, that's sort of working, and the voltage drops obviously, so we got like 1 amp out of it at 5 volts, and then if I try to increase the load any more, the voltage starts dropping and the current starts stabilizing at around 1 amp. So yeah, I mean, the current limit feature obviously works. We can see the LED is on as well. If I back off the load, the light goes out. So yeah, it's basically working. That's good. I don't know if the current set is it looks okay, I guess. If I turn it right down to 0, we get absolutely nothing. But yeah, I don't know how good the readout of this is, but then again, we don't know how accurate that is either, so that's the only problem with having the analog meter on here, is it's hard to precisely set a limit. But let's say we want to get more current out of it. About 3 amps out of it. Yeah, which looks about right. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be correct. It's just this voltage adjustment is not very good. Yeah, you see there, if I adjust the voltage right at the bottom, it moves around more than it should. Especially when it gets right to the end of travel, it jumps up a little bit. Yeah, I think this is going like open circuit or something, or short circuit. Because we saw just there, I turned it down, and it actually went back up to, jumped straight back up to the middle there. So yeah, there's definitely something wrong with that control. This one seems okay. Doesn't seem to be too bad, actually. Yeah, that one works pretty smoothly. But the voltage adjustment does not appear to be very good. So the only thing left to do is to take the board out and confirm the value of the potentiometer, so I can make sure I get the correct replacement. Now I've had a look in terms of the other board and checked the size of the potentiometer and stuff, and I believe that what I've got here is well, this one here should be the kind of replacement. It's a 12mm sort of size one. Strange sort of style. It's not the common one of the common sizes that you typically get. Now this one is not exactly the same as the original, because as we can see here on the other board, the style has this square body, the square kind of shroud around it. I don't know. I can't find a brand on this one. I think there's a name on it. Yeah, CTS is marked on this one, but I can't find anything that looks like this online, and I can't find that brand or anything. So I don't know where these are originally from. They might be a custom design. I'm not sure, but definitely if you look here, this definitely seems to be very similar. It's just got a round sort of shroud there instead of a square one. And looking at the measurements and everything from the data sheet and measuring the board on the other one there and everything, it does look like this would fit. It does seem to be the same size, the same pin spacing and everything. Unfortunately these are from Mouser and I can't get any like locally of this style. I can only get different sizes. These are $3 each, which is not bad, but of course I'd have to spend at least $60 or something to get free shipping, otherwise it's ridiculous. And this is from America, so who knows if there's going to be tariffs all over it as well. So yeah, but I was fortunately able to find these ones here on AliExpress, which are almost the same. This one actually has the knurled shaft, which is what I want. The only real difference with this is that the shaft is slightly shorter. It's 10mm instead of 12. But that should be fine. I believe there's enough shaft length there that the knob shall fit, so that shouldn't be a problem. The only real issue here is obviously we don't know the quality. These ones here are from an actual brand that you've heard of, but this one here is who knows. So I don't know how long this will last if I replace it with one of these, but at least it should be better than what's in there. And if I, want a better quality one, I can always get one of these later, I suppose, next time I do a big order or something. I think DigiKey also carries these as well, but sadly Farnell doesn't, which is the place I normally go to. But yeah, I finally found some of these on AliExpress. It's difficult because most of the ones that they sell are either the 9mm ones or the 16mm ones, and yeah, this 12mm size is definitely not as common. Yeah, so kind of hard to find. I suppose you could actually replace this with a 9mm style one, and just maybe bend the lugs out a bit and extend the leads with wire and stuff. I think it would be possible to do that, but these are cheap enough and they seem to be looking like they'll fit, so I might as well get these. I don't think there's any sense in getting one that is the wrong size and trying to adapt it. I'd rather go with one that actually is the correct size in the first place. So yeah, I'll get these. Yeah, it has a 3-star review on it, but that's just someone who said they were too small and didn't read the description, so I don't expect that's an issue. So yeah, I'll order these for this, I believe, once I check again, make sure the value is correct, but I will have to take this board out and check the value to make sure that is what that one is. I can't measure it in circuit. If I measure it in circuit, I just get 8K, which obviously doesn't tell me anything. But it is in parallel with a bunch of other stuff if you check the schematic. So yeah, I'm going to have to take it out and desolder it, I guess, but I need to do that anyway because it's clearly not in good condition. And while I'm out there, I'll have a look at the capacitors as well, because again, the capacitors are cheaper in this model than the other one. They've definitely been using cheaper components in this one than in the other one, which is 30 years old. So I don't know what date this is, but we'll find that out too, I guess, when I get it apart. Find out all the capacitors. I might replace them with the better quality ones, because these are, I think, some cheap ones there. And the other one's got Elners in it, which are, yeah, 30 years old, but they still seem to be working perfectly fine. So I'm not sure if I'll replace those or not yet. But I think I'll definitely replace these, because I have seen some posts online about this model, and I have seen people, with ones that have had bulging capacitors in them, so it's definitely doesn't appear to be one that's particularly good, so I might want to replace all the ones in there as well. Alright, so I've just taken the front panel off and just taking all the screws out for there, and I'm about to desolder the meters so I can get the board out of the front panel there, and I just noticed looking through this little adjustment hole that you'd use if there was a trimmer there, we can actually see the value printed on the back of the pot that says 50K, so yeah, that confirms it there. We don't actually need to take this out, but I mean, I need to take it out anyway to replace the pot, so yeah, so that's good. And the other one is a 5K. Hard to see through here with the camera, it's not very good at focusing and everything, but yeah, this matches up with what the schematic says. So these are in fact the correct ones, 50K for the voltage and 5K for the current. So if you need to replace those, that's what you need to get, and they have to be in a 12mm form factor, because they're a strange size. I don't know why they've chosen that, but I guess that's what they thought fit the best. But yeah, so I just got to keep taking this apart, and then I can write down all the capacitor values as well, which I mean I assume are the same as the schematic, but it's nice to know what size they are as well, like physically. And we, for example, have this one here poking through the thing, and I can see, GS, that's not an Elner series, I believe, and the top says vent on it. So this is going to be probably a Capexon one as well. So yeah, would ideally like to replace those, because I don't trust the quality of those. But we'll see when I get this off. We can probably pull a date code off the ICs. They're probably thrown on the transistors here, of course, but I forgot to look at them. I straightened out this frame and I put everything back together without actually checking what the date code was. So I don't know, but once I get this off, I should be able to look at the ICs and probably find out from that what year this was. I'm going to guess it was 2000 and something. Obviously, something when Dick Smith still existed. So probably 2009 or earlier. It wouldn't be later than that, because after that, I believe that's when they went out of existence, really. Alright, so we got the board free, and there we go, that's what it looks like. It just has one single dual op amp. A single dual op amp? Yeah, well, one dual op amp chip here that handles, one side does the voltage control and one does the current. I don't know how good that design is, but it seems to work in a basic concept. Yeah, so you can see these are the same square style pots as the other one. These ones aren't rusty, but this one's actually in worse condition. Interestingly enough, they also have the same branding on them, which the camera won't focus on, but they do say CTS on them. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, CTS. I don't know, I haven't found out what that is. Anyway, probably doesn't matter. We got 3 electrolytics on here. Little Capexon branded. None of them are bulging, but, who knows. Oh yeah, date codes, that's right. So this is, it's a 4558D, I believe that's a, sort of very common dual op amp, and then it says 2231G at the bottom, so, yeah, I don't know what that's meant to be. It's obviously not going to be 2022. It's not going to be 2031 either, so yeah, not sure how to interpret that. The capacitors say C23.8 on them, which is not particularly helpful either, but that could imply 2008, which would make sense. As I said, that would be around about a year before Dick Smith closed down, so if this was from 2008, that would be pretty logical, which would make it about 20 years old, 18 years, 17, 18 years old, I guess, around that, so almost as half as old as the other one, and yet this pot is failing. Anyway, then again, this probably has a lot more use on it too. I think the other one was just set to 13 volts and left there for years, so that probably makes more sense, to be honest. This has had a lot more wear on it. I'll note down these capacitors and I will replace them with something a bit better, because I might as well. Capexon aren't exactly the best known brands. And yeah, as for the main one, well, obviously I won't replace that unless it fails. It's 10,000 microfarad one there, which is, you know, not too bad. It's smaller than the other one. The other one is 47,000 microfarad. That's only 10,000, but it makes sense because the current on this is much lower. So yeah, that one's unlikely to fail anytime soon, but if it does, then that can be done later. But I might as well do this while the board's off and I've got the changing this anyway. But yeah, if it turns out the ones from AliExpress are too cheap and they just wear out as well, then I will buy the decent ones, or at least hopefully decent ones, from Mauser or DigiKey or something in the future. But for now, I think the cheap ones should probably be fine. Like I say, I can get 5 of them for about $8, so it's not too bad. For lower voltages and for fine adjustment, it would make sense to have a 10-turn pot here, to be honest. But I don't know how to fit one in. It would probably involve cutting a hole in the board and setting that there, and maybe mounting it onto the front panel with a nut and then having a different knob. Yeah, if I was to do that. So maybe I'll do that at some point, but we'll see how it goes with just the single one. I'll replace it with that first, and then I can, go through the thing, test it out, make sure it's actually working. If there's any other issues, I can fix those first, and then if it's not good enough to have just one of these, I can maybe think about changing it for a 10-turn one later on. But yeah, we just want to kind of, it's good for something like this to get it working to a known good configuration and making sure that there's nothing wrong with it before you go modifying it, because you go modifying stuff and sometimes you don't know if what you've modified has caused the problem or if the problem was already there. So it's better to just do that, and like I said, it doesn't cost much to replace these, so that sounds like a logical thing, and a 10-turn pot is much more expensive, so I think it makes sense to start with just getting another one of those. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that this knob is this pot is the fault. That's the issue there. It's very unlikely that it's anything else. That kind of behavior is just what you see with these kind of things that are worn out or dirty or broken or whatever. Just as a volume control or an amplifier or something will make bursts of static when you turn it, and the volume may go very quiet or very loud even at the low settings. Yeah, usually these things are just failing, and yeah, you can clean them. Sometimes it's just a dirt issue, but I don't actually have any proper cleaning spray for these. I just have a generic sort of contact cleaner, which isn't really what you want to use. There are proper potentiometer cleaners, like the Deoxit F5, I think, stuff like that. Is what you should be using. Definitely don't use WD-40 or anything. It makes more sense just to replace it, usually, if you can. When you got some really strange pot that's really expensive or very strange configuration, sometimes cleaning it is obviously a better choice to attempt first. Oh yeah, check this out. Measuring the potentiometer from end to end, we get 50k as expected. Measuring from one end to the wiper, we get 150k, which shouldn't be possible, and it's bouncing around. Check the other side. What do we get? 75k. That's not good at all. And that's fully on the counterclockwise position, which is where we're getting the issues. So yeah, it's clearly showing that this thing is kind of going high resistance or open circuit when it's turned down right to the bottom, which is not what you want. So yeah, we need to solve that problem. So this thing is definitely bad. Let's see what happens if I turn it a little bit. Yeah, I'm putting pressure on it. I'm not even turning it back the other way, and it's going completely off the wall, jumping around like crazy. If I turn it the normal way that it should be, now it settles down to 52k because it's all the way around the other end. If we try the other end, we should get like 1.5 ohms. So that's fine, but yeah, it is working on most of the travel, but right down the bottom end, it's it's not good. So yep, that's definitely bad. That's obviously the source of the problems, so I need to replace this. So yeah, probably dirty, worn down that bottom end. Probably makes more sense to replace it for reliability. I wonder if the AliExpress search feature, image search feature, will work if I take a photo of this and upload it and see if it can find one similar. I doubt it. I haven't found anything similar to this on the internet anywhere. Yeah, interestingly enough, it says 50KD 0234, so is that 2002? 34th week of 2002? Could be. Don't know what the D is. I would imagine this would be a linear pot, so it should say 50KB or B50K. There is no resistance curve labeled D as far as I'm aware. There's A for logarithmic and B for linear, and then C for reverse log. But a D, I have never heard of that. I don't know what that's there for. But anyway, it's no good, so we need to get a new one. So there you go. See you next time.